Okay, hi guys. It is June the 2nd, and Toyota just came out with some new incentives, so I thought we could go over those and see what's new and different from last month, and just kind of do a quick bring you up to speed on all the models. But before we start on June programs, many of you who have been shopping for a truck may know that inventory was pretty restricted, and so many of the dealers in I know our market in Denver and probably in many of the major markets were not really coming off of list price, especially for Tacomas, some for Tundras. And so we've seen that continue with many of the dealers. The big stores like AutoNation and Sonic stores are still definitely holding firm on their selling prices. So I've been giving some advice to clients mainly to wait it out. We were, from what Toyota said this morning on the news, they were 8 weeks of production behind. I don't know how realistic that is, but we're seeing it reflected in the prices of trucks. But the good news is for the rest of the lineup, we're still seeing our usual kind of discounts here at the brokerage, which is probably good news for everybody out there who's looking to get a deal on their new car. So we'll start here with probably the 2020 models. You can see here they've got a bunch of 2019s. I don't know how many of these 2019s are actually out there in the market, but for us, Ravs have been gone for a long time. Forerunners were gone, last year. Highlander Hybrid, there might be a few of those somewhere out there. And for some bizarre reason, they were having a hard time selling through their Sequoia inventory, and so there was incentives on 2019s, but for the longest time there was no incentive on 2020 Sequoia. So they definitely have some glut of Sequoia, it sounds like. And I can't imagine there's any 2019 Tacomas, but if there is, there's some extra cash right there. So there's all of your rebates for the 2019 models. So as far as 2020s, the Avalon $2,500 rebate. It's a fairly fresh redesign on that car, so that's an interesting incentive along with 0%. So in this column right here, guys, it's going to be interest rates, APRs for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and 6 years. So there is a 0% for 5 years and a reasonably good money factor on the lease. And what you'll need to do to read this form here is this consumer cash is in lieu of special APR. So you have to give up the rebate to get that, or the special lease, right? So if there is money on the lease plus a special APR or plus a special money factor, you'd see it there. So pretty good rate. Avalon Hybrid is about the same. Rates twice as high, but that's what we've been seeing for hybrids is mostly what Toyota's doing is putting it in the rate or backing off the incentive a little bit. Camrys, $1,250 rebate. Decent rate. I'd probably look at the $1,250 rebate and a market rate, even though market rates are creeping up. I still think we're in the twos for something in a 60-month term. And great lease rate. I was actually looking at one of these in all-wheel drive for my next car, and I think that the lease is super attractive on this at basically free interest. And so XLEs, so they break this down between the base Camrys, LLEs, SEs, and then the mid-range here, and then this is the higher end models. So they really are having different programs, which is typical for the different trims. So it's a little more for the higher trim. 00020 is still a very great rate. And then the high end Camrys, 00045. So great rates. The hybrid, that's interesting. Actually has a lower rate than the high-end gas. So that's kind of an interesting opportunity. 0% there for up to 60 months. So looks like they're pushing the Camry hybrid some. Corolla, I know, has a great lease. We saw leases in the low twos with a quad 06 money factor, 1250 rebate. So the purchase is okay. I think the lease is probably the way to go. And they also give you $600 of cash to go on top of the lease, which is nice. They're competing there with your Mazda 3, your Subaru Imprezas, all of which have lease cash around that kind of mark. Mazda has a rate this low. Subaru does not. So this is a really good lease on that. The Corolla Hybrid bumps up the rate a little bit. Still has consumer cash. That might be an interesting car as well. And the hatchback, which is my personal favorite, about the same as the sedan. $250 difference on the consumer cash. There is 0% on that. So Corolla hatchback has 0. The others do not. That's interesting. Higher lease money factor than all the rest. So the purchase might be interesting on that one. Yaris sedan and hatchback. It kind of flips that paradigm around where the hatch is actually got more incentive, lower rate, no special APRs. Frankly, unless you want a car that, on the subcompact, I think the Corolla is a better way to go just from value. Let's just look at these leases here. So you could get a Yaris for $259 a month, or a Corolla hybrid for $249 a month, or a sedan Corolla for $179 a month. I mean, the Yaris is not super exciting on the lease, but if it's just the cheapest car possible, it might be a contender as a cash deal. Take the incentives or finance it outside, because all of this right here, the rates, APRs are no good. This is what the BRZ equivalent. I don't even know what it is. FRZ, I think. Yeah, FRZ. So $1,000 rebate, no real special APRs, and no real good lease rate. The lease is okay, kind of what you'd expect for those low production sports cars. The little CHR, good rebate, on par with the rest of the class. No special APRs. And I say that because 1.9 for 60, you can $1,500 again. It's going to be better to take a market rate, which can be somewhere in the twos. However, the lease looks pretty good at $219 a month, money factor of 0005. Good lease. Priuses do have special APR in lieu of $1,000. That might be one that I would consider. The lease is okay, not great, not bad. I think this is a lot to do with residual being pretty high, because the money factor is somewhere in the middle of the range. Prius Prime, no programs. Supra. Now here's what's interesting. Some of you may know Supra for 2021 is supposed to be a small tweak or large tweak. I guess depends on how you look at it, to the engine. It's going to make more power, and I think they're introducing a 4-cylinder model as well. So the 2020 Supra, this might be interesting at $3,500 for a 6-cylinder. I don't know where the prices of the 2021s are going to be, but $3,500 on the hood there, a halfway decent lease rate. That would probably be a candidate to lease with a third-party lease company, credit union, or U.S. Bank or something like that. Maybe even Ally Financial. Who knows? Now we get into the RAVs. So the RAV has $1,000 or 19 to 60 or a okay lease rate. The thing with the Toyota Motor Credit leases on the RAVs is they have really high residuals, like mid 60%, low to mid 60% residuals. So the payments are really great. Like look at this payment they're quoting here, $239 with $3,000 down. That is all to do with residual. So the residuals are really, really strong right now. May not bode well for you at the end of the term, but there'll be options, and it's a pretty attractive lease. And same with the hybrids. Hybrids have super high residuals, even though the lease rate's even a little bit worse on those. But there's not a lot of premium in the MSRP for the hybrids, so it's still a really good value for those guys. So RAVs, they're pretty good for June, it looks like. Forerunners, they're kind of, oh no, it went up. Forerunner did go up from last month. So it went from 1,000 to 1,500. Forerunner's been kind of all over the board for 2020. I've seen it, when it first came out as low as $500, and I think I've seen it go over $2,000. So Toyota is back and forth with that, but 1,500 is better than it was last month, last couple months. With Forerunners, the way to do these is not to, generally not to lease them through Toyota Motor Credit. There's a better lease out there through the credit unions, and Ally Financial is pretty decent on those. So, June's pretty good improvement for Forerunner. Highlanders have loyalty, so they carried that through. So if you are a lessee, Toyota Motor Credit lessee with a Highlander, I think is how it works, you'll get an additional $1,000 with this program. So you can take $1,000 and lease it at the special rate. Looks like they may have taken away the $1,000 lease cash. No. So the way it works is you can take the loyalty and the $1,000 for a $2,000 rebate and go outside of Toyota, or take the $1,000, take the 146 rate at Toyota. I think that's how it works. So that's the same as last month. Hybrids a little bit less on the consumer cash side, a little bit higher on the money factor side, as with all of the gas versus hybrids we've seen. The van, $1,750 rebate, that's been pretty consistent. A decent lease rate. These vans are so-so. I think if you don't need the all-wheel drive, the Honda van's probably the way to go. But the Sienna being so unique as the all-wheel drive van, it's only okay on the lease, even with that rate. And then we'll wrap up with the trucks. Like I mentioned, the market's really hard right now for consumers because of low supply, really driving this market to the dealer's advantage. But these are still, the Tacomas especially, the best leasing car on the planet right now, and they have been for many years. So $1,750 rebate carries through from last month, and we've seen that consistent through 2020-ish, around there, $1,500 to $1,700. No really great rebate, APR. And then the Toyota, looks like that lease rate got bumped up from last month, I believe. But look at this, $209 a month, $29.99 due at signing. I don't think you can get that in the market right now if they're going for full price or thereabouts. I think that's going to require some dealer contribution to get to that number. But I still think the best way to do a Tacoma is the Ally lease, which we've seen payments sub 200 back when prices were normal. sub $200 a month payments on double cab SR5s with a couple $1,000s down. So, yeah, it's just tough right now. So you may want to hold off on a Tacoma, or maybe look at a pre-owned one, like a 1 or 2 year old one, which is against everything that we really tell our clients to do. But I think this is the one exception where, the market's just so high on new Tacomas that it might finally be worth looking at something that's got a couple years old there. So, and then lastly, the Tundra. No, I guess they have 21 models. I don't think we'll get into that, but Tundra 2500, so that's been consistent for a few months as well. Toyota's got a theme here: consistency. The rate, it's okay. Again, if you shop that rate, market rates are in the 2s still, even though they are trending up. Probably going to be better to take the rebate. 175 lease on the Tundra. You give away the 2500 for that rate. That can actually be a pretty good lease, even though the Ally lease is one of the best ones for Tundra. Yeah, that's pretty good. So it might be a coin toss on which company is best there. So anyway, guys, that is all the rebates and incentives for Toyota for the month of June. They'll be good through July 6th. If you have any questions, you can follow the link in the description to my website. You can send me a message through there, and I'll see you in the next one.